If you've been using Claude Design to build websites, then you've probably noticed something, that most of them end up looking kind of the same, and it's not your fault either. I gave the same prompt to 100 different people and then asked them to build a website with Claude Design, and almost every single result looked nearly identical. Same layout, same vibe, same generic feel. But here's what nobody tells you: the first generation is never the product, it's just the starting point. So the people building sites that actually look polished and intentional, well, they're not better designers. They don't know how to code. They're just doing one thing differently after that first draft appears on the screen. And in this video, I'm going to show you the exact process that I use myself to make sites 10 times more beautiful with Claude Design. No design background, no code, just a repeatable workflow that completely transforms what the AI gives you. And by the end of this, you'll never look at a first draft the same way ever again. Now, if you do want to master AI tools and you do want to learn how to build profitable SaaS apps and websites, AI agents, and mobile apps with AI, I've created a complete masterclass that shows you exactly how to do this step by step. And my masterclass normally costs $499 to join, but since you are watching this video, thank you so much. You can join completely free. Just check out that link in the description below to get free access to my masterclass, and you too can start building your own AI-powered business today. Right? Let's get into this. A lot of people hear about Claude Design and assume it's another AI tool that generates images or spits out code, and that's not really what it does. Claude Design is built around the idea of creating visual projects through conversation. You describe what you want in plain English, and then Claude generates something that you can immediately see, you can interact with, and refine. So that's websites, prototypes, presentations, landing pages, mockups, and other visual assets. All of those can be created inside the same workspace. The interface is split into two panels. The chat sits on the left where you communicate with Claude, and then the canvas sits on the right where your design appears and updates in real time. So every request that you make shows up visually on the canvas, creating a workflow that feels much more interactive than a traditional AI chat. So rather than reading descriptions or scrolling through blocks of code, well, now you're working directly with a design that you can review and click on and modify as it evolves. Claude Design is powered by Anthropic's most capable vision model, and it is currently available as a research preview for Pro, Max, Team, and Enterprise users. So if you are on one of those plans, then you already have access through claude.ai/design. And one reason the tool has become so popular is that design experience isn't a requirement. Professional designers can use it to explore concepts and creative directions much faster, but it is also equally useful for founders and marketers and creators and business owners who have an idea and want to turn it into something polished without having to learn a traditional design workflow. And if that sounds like you, then everything we're about to cover here will make a lot more sense. Now, to see why most people never get great results from Claude Design, we do need to start the same way that they do. And usually there's an idea in mind, but not much patience. And the goal is simply to get something on the screen as quickly as possible. So the prompt just ends up being the shortest version of the idea. So for this example, I'm building a landing page for a coffee shop, and the prompt is going to be, make me a landing page for a coffee shop. And that's the entire prompt. There's no details about the brand, no layout instructions, there's no target audience, no design direction. It's exactly the kind of prompt that most people will type on their first attempt. And Claude takes that request and starts filling in the missing information all on its own. And it may ask a few follow-up questions, yes, which we will answer. And within a few seconds, we do have a complete landing page generated on the canvas here. And at first glance, it looks perfectly fine. There's a navigation bar, a hero section, some supporting content, and a call to action button. The structure is organized, nothing is broken, and everything appears where you would expect it to be. The problem becomes obvious when you spend a little bit more time looking at it. The typography feels generic, the spacing is clean but predictable, the color palette could belong to almost any coffee shop, really. Even the headline sounds like something you've seen dozens of times already. And nothing about the page just stands out or communicates a unique personality. And that's why so many people just come away disappointed after their first first generation. Claude didn't do anything wrong here. It gave us exactly what we asked for. The prompt contained almost no direction anyway, so Claude had to fill in those gaps with the safest possible choices. And this version is important because it is going to be our baseline for the rest of the video here. So every improvement that we make from this point forward will be compared against this page. So by the end, we'll have something that feels intentional, polished, and professionally designed, and we'll get there without starting over or using any design skills. The only difference will be how we use the tool and how specific we are with our instructions. So now let's make a single change that has a bigger impact than almost anything else you'll do inside of Claude Design. Most people assume better results will come from advanced features or hidden tricks. In reality, the biggest improvement usually just comes before the design is even generated at all. It comes from the prompt itself. And the difference is simple. Generic prompts, of course, produce generic designs, right? Specific prompts give Claude enough information to make intentional decisions. So a good prompt should tell Claude 4 things: the goal, the layout, the content, and the audience. So here's what that looks like in practice. Create a landing page for a small batch specialty coffee roaster. The goal is to get local people to come in and buy beans. Lay out a full-width hero with one strong image and a short tagline, then a section telling the brand story, a section showing the beans, and a Visit Us block near the bottom. The brand is warm, it's crafted and slightly premium, single origin coffee roasted in small batches. Keep the copy in that voice. This is for local coffee lovers who care about quality and craft, not a big chain. So notice how much direction that we're actually giving Claude now. The goal is clear, the layout is defined, the brand personality is described, the audience is identified, and Claude no longer has to invent those details on its own because we've already provided them. And Claude may still ask a few follow-up questions, which we will answer, and then we can compare the result to our first version. And we're still building a landing page for the same coffee business. Now, the only thing that changed is the quality of our instructions. So take a look at the difference here. The page has a much stronger identity. The hero section immediately communicates the type of brand that we're looking at. The typography has actual character. The spacing creates a clearer visual hierarchy, and the copy does actually sound like it belongs to a specialty coffee company rather than another generic template. There's nothing magical happening here behind the scenes. Claude simply just had more information to work with. Earlier, it had to make safe assumptions about everything, but now it knows the mood, the structure, the audience, and the purpose of the page. And it's in those details that influence every decision that it makes, from the visual style to the wording on the screen. And that's why prompt specificity matters so much. The tool didn't suddenly become better between the first version and this one, no. The instructions are what became better. Spending an extra, 30 seconds defining the goal, the layout, content, and audience will improve your results more than most people realize. The page is already in a much better place, but we're not finished, not yet. A good first generation gives us something worth improving, yes, and that's exactly what we're going to do next. The first version gave us a strong starting point, but there is still work to do, and this is where the chat becomes useful. So think of chat as the tool for larger changes that affect the entire page. Things like layout adjustments, section order, visual direction, and overall presentation all belong here. The smaller tweaks can wait until later, but right now we're focused on the foundation. Looking at the page, 2 things do stand out to me immediately. The featured products are buried too far down the page, and the overall presentation could do a better job reflecting a premium small batch coffee brand. So let's fix those one at a time. The first change is all about structure. I want visitors to see the product much earlier, so I'm going to move the featured beans section directly below the hero section and display 3 featured coffees in a simple grid. Let's say move the featured beans section higher up, just below the hero. Show 3 featured coffees in a clean grid, each with a name and a short description. I want the actual product to be one of the first things that people see. And once that one runs, watch what happens here. The page just reorganizes itself almost immediately. The products are now near the top. There's a dedicated featured coffee section with 3 cards, and the journey through the page just makes more sense. Visitors are introduced to the product much earlier, which is exactly what we want for a business that does sell coffee beans. So now let's go ahead and make a broader visual adjustment. The structure is in a much better place, but the overall presentation can still be pushed a little bit further. Specialty coffee brands often lean into richer colors, more breathing room, and a more editorial style. And that's the direction I want Claude to take next. So let's say, now make the whole page feel warmer and more editorial. Use deeper, richer tones and more generous spacing, the kind of polished look you'd expect from a high-end roaster. And in just a few seconds, we get an updated version. As you can see, the content hasn't changed, but the presentation certainly has. The color palette has more depth, the spacing creates stronger separation between sections, and the page carries much more of the craftsmanship and the premium positioning we described earlier. Our prompt changed the entire visual direction. There's an important lesson here for that. Large changes should always come before small ones. So get the structure right, get the visual direction right, and only then start worrying about individual buttons and cards and headlines. Otherwise, you're going to end up redoing small adjustments every time the bigger pieces move around. The overall structure is in place now, which means that we can stop thinking about entire sections and really start focusing on individual elements. And for that, we're going to move away from chat and now work directly on the canvas. And this is where inline comments become useful. So rather than, say, describing an element in a message and hoping that Claude understands exactly what we're referring to, we can simply just click on the element itself and then leave feedback right there. So if a button needs work, click the button. If a headline needs adjustment, then click the headline. The process is just much faster because there's no guesswork about what you're referring to. So now let's switch into comment mode and make a few targeted improvements. Now, the first element that I do want to adjust here is the main call to action button. I'll click directly on it and I'm going to ask Claude to increase the size slightly, add more padding, and use the primary brand color more prominently so that it draws attention immediately. Next up, I'm going to select one of the featured coffee cards, and the content is fine, but the cards could use a little bit more internal spacing and slightly softer corners. Small changes like that can make a layout look much more refined without really changing the structure at all. And the last adjustment is the hero headline. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to ask Claude to increase the size and tighten up the typography so it has a stronger presence at the top of the page. Now, take a step back and look at the page as a whole. None of those updates completely transformed the design on their own. We adjusted a button, refined the cards, and we improved a headline. Now, individually, they're minor changes, but together they elevate the entire page. And that's how refinement usually works. Great designs are rarely the result of one dramatic change. They're built through a series of smaller improvements that accumulate over time. And the prompt gave us a strong foundation. Chat helped shape the overall structure. Inline comments allow us to focus on the details that bring everything together. A quick tip now before we move on, inline comments are still part of a research preview. So sometimes, occasionally, a comment won't register correctly. And if that happens, well, don't waste time fighting the interface. Just copy the same instruction into the chat and Claude will usually make the change without any issues. The page is looking pretty strong at this point to me, but there is one more step that can make a surprising difference. Before we settle on a final design, it is worth exploring a few alternative directions and then comparing them side by side. The page is looking pretty good to me right now, but there is one more technique worth doing before calling it a day. And a lot of beginners pick a direction and then spend all of their time refining it. Designers often take a different approach. They explore multiple options first and then choose the strongest one. And that's one of the advantages of working inside Claude Design. Creating alternative concepts only takes a few seconds. There's no need to rebuild an entire section from scratch every single time that you want to try something different. So the section that I care about most is the hero because it is the first thing visitors see when they land on the page. So before making any changes though, I do want to preserve the version that we've already built. Before we try anything new, save what we have now so we can come back to it. I want to keep this version saved. So using that prompt gives us a version we can return to at any time if we don't like the new direction. So next, I'm going to ask Claude to generate a few alternative hero layouts while keeping the rest of the page unchanged. Now show me 3 alternative layouts for the hero section only. Keep everything else on the page the same. I just want to compare different directions for the hero. And a few moments later, Claude gives us 3 different approaches. The first option here uses a split layout. The text sits on the left side while the image occupies the entire right side. And the result has a more editorial, magazine-inspired look. And the second option here takes a more centered approach. The headline, the supporting text, and the buttons are all positioned in the middle of the screen with a full-width image sitting behind them. It's clean, it's minimal, and very balanced. And now finally, the third option goes in a different direction. The hero is placed inside a thin inset frame, the heading moves towards the lower left corner, and a featured coffee card is layered directly into the design with product information visible from the moment the page loads. So having all 3 of these options now side by side makes the decision much easier, at least for me. And for this particular brand, I think the third version works best. The framed layout gives the page a more premium presentation, and featuring an actual coffee product inside the hero immediately reinforces what the business sells. So that aligns perfectly with the changes that we've already made throughout the page. So that's the version I'm gonna go ahead and pick and apply here. To help visualize the final direction, I'll also add a temporary hero image, and that small change makes a noticeable difference. The hero commands more attention, the product becomes part of the story right away, and the page has a stronger opening than any of the earlier versions. So looking at a few alternatives now takes the guesswork out of the whole process. A few minutes just spent comparing different directions can really lead to a much stronger result than endlessly tweaking the first idea that appears on the screen. So whenever a section plays an important role in the design, it's usually worth seeing a few alternatives before making a final decision. Now, a lot of people stop once they have a design that they're happy with, but Claude Design really gives you several ways to take that work beyond the canvas. Whether you want to share it, present it, collaborate on it, or turn it into a real website, then the next step starts with the export button here in the top right corner. Clicking it opens up a list of formats, and each one serves a different purpose. You can download the project as a zip file or export it as a PDF if your goal is simply to just share the design or present it to someone. PowerPoint and Canva exports are useful when you're working on presentations or you want to continue editing inside of those platforms. There's also a standalone HTML option which gives you the web page as a file that can be hosted. Finally, Claude Design can also hand the project off to Claude Code, packaging everything together so that it can be developed into a fully functional website. The easiest way to think about this is if you're sharing, presenting, or collecting feedback, then PDF, PowerPoint, and Canva are usually the right choice. If you're moving towards a live website, standalone HTML or the Claude Code handoff are the options that you're going to want to explore. Collaboration is also built directly into the platform, so if all you need is just feedback from teammates or clients, there's no reason to export anything at all. You can just generate a share link, give people view-only access, allow comments, or invite them to edit alongside you. So let's finish by comparing the 2 versions side by side. And the first page came from a single vague prompt and gave us something functional but generic. The version that we have now has a very clear identity, a stronger structure, better visual hierarchy, and a much more polished presentation. What's interesting is that none of these improvements came from design expertise. No, we used the same tool, we worked on the same coffee shop website, and we followed a simple process. A more specific prompt created a stronger foundation, chat helped shape the structure, inline comments refined individual elements, variations helped us compare different directions before making a decision. So looking at the before and after, it's clear here that the first generation was only the starting point. The real improvement happened through the refinements that followed, each one moving the design closer to the result that we actually wanted. So let's put the 2 versions side by side. On the left is the page we got from the original prompt, and on the right is the final version after a few rounds of refinement. Same coffee shop, same tool, completely different result. The first version does its job. It has all the expected sections, the layout is organized, and nothing looks broken. The problem is that it could belong to pretty much almost any other coffee coffee shop. There isn't much personality, there isn't much direction, and there isn't much reason to actually really remember it. Now, the version on the right is much more intentional. The product appears earlier on the page. The typography has a lot more character, the color palette supports the actual brand, and the hero section here immediately communicates what makes the business different. So every part of the page is working towards the same goal. What makes this comparison interesting, though, is that none of those changes actually happened all at once. Each stage solved a different problem, then the prompt gave Claude enough context to make better decisions. Chat helped improve the structure and presentation. Inline comments just tightened up those details. Exploring variations helped us find a stronger hero layout than the one we started with. And if you're looking for the biggest lesson here from this exercise, then pay attention to how much changed after the first generation. The initial version wasn't the finished design, it was the raw material. The quality came from refining it, questioning it, and giving Claude clearer direction at every step. So most of the gap between these two pages was created before any detailed editing happened. It came from taking a few extra moments to explain the goal, the audience, the content, and the overall direction of the site. And once that foundation was in place, then the rest of the improvements just became much easier to make. And looking at the final result now, the process is actually pretty straightforward. Generate a starting point, improve the structure, polish the details, compare a few alternatives, then repeat when necessary. And that is the workflow that produced the page here on the right. And it's the exact same workflow that you can apply to any project that you build inside of Claude Design. The interesting thing about this entire process is that we never changed tools, learned any design principles, or started over from scratch. We just took a single coffee shop landing page and then improved it step by step. The first version came from a vague prompt and gave us something quite generic. The final version had a clear identity, stronger structure, better typography, and much more attention to detail. So the difference came from how we worked with Claude Design, not from having design experience. And the biggest improvement happened right at the beginning, giving Claude a clear goal, a layout, content strategy, and audience immediately changed the quality of its output. So that one habit will have a larger impact on your results than almost anything else you do inside of the tool. The rest of the workflow is really about knowing which tool to use at the right time. So chat works best for larger changes involving structure, layout, and overall presentation. Inline comments are much better for targeted refinements on specific elements. And once those pieces are in place, then exploring variations just helps you compare different directions and really choose the strongest option instead of relying on guesswork. So if you're looking for something to build next, don't go searching for the perfect project. Take an idea that you've already been thinking about and then run it through the same process. Build a landing page, a portfolio, a pitch deck, a one-pager, or pretty much anything else that interests you. Focus on being specific, refine the structure, polish the details, and compare alternatives when a section isn't working. And after a few projects, you'll start to notice that the workflow stays largely the same. Difference is that your prompts will become clearer, your feedback will be more precise, and your decisions will be faster. And that's usually where the biggest improvements come from. So everything that we've covered in this video is enough to take your designs far beyond the first generation. The only thing left to do is open up Claude Design and start building. All right, with that, that's it for this one. Thank you for investing your time with me today, and I'll see you at the next build.